Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
So when we walk into the house, and especially when you get these two gorgeous little kids coming running up, what's more important, that work email that can wait another half hour, or just giving them that attention that they want in that moment?
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
I've got stage fright today. Alison Langdon joins us for the Happy Families podcast. Ali was was the host of Parental Guidance. I was going to say was my co-host. I just promoted myself. G'day, this is Dr. Justin and I'm here with Kylie, my wife and mum to our 6 kids, and Alison Langdon. Good morning to you.
Good morning, co-host. How are you? Of course we're a co-host.
I'm so glad you know how to put him in his place, Ali. He needs it every now and again.
I'm literally shrinking under the table right now. Oh gosh. Wow. So we've watched 3 weeks of amazing TV. I don't think that family life and parenting has ever been under the spotlight on Australian television, maybe even international television, in the way that this show has done it. And Ali, we wanted to get you on the show to have a conversation with you about what it was like to literally be in the driver's seat, to host this brand new show that has done really well by any measure. The way we're going to do this, though, is because I was on the show with you, rather than me asking you questions that I already know the answers to, Kylie is going to run the interview, and this is Kylie's first ever interview. Like normally I do the whole thing and Kylie sort of chimes in with some really great conversation, but today it's all Kylie.
This is very exciting because I was a bit worried it was going to be you, Justin, but now I'm working with a professional that it's Kylie. Well, I'm on board.
Oh, you're too kind, Ali.
Does he also cop it at home, Kylie?
Oh, a little bit. A little bit.
This is what Ali did to me for the entire filming of the show. The whole time. Just kept putting me back in my box.
There are so many things we could talk about with the show, Ali, but before we even get to the show, I just need to know what it was like working with Justin. I mean, I have to live with him and that can be tricky at times, but I'm just wondering, how intense was it really?
Look, I mean, I've got to admit that by the time we did some long days and we'd get to 11 o'clock at night, it's like, oh, thank goodness he's going home to Kylie and she can deal with him now, and that I got a break. I don't know how you've done it for as long as you've done it. No, I loved working with your husband. He's a wonderful man. He's got a great sense of humour, great advice, and just to be sitting next to him. And as Justin said, we're going through this. It's a brand new experiment. So we're not looking at something that someone's done overseas and copying it. We were winging it, which is kind of how I parent, by the way. And we were sort of making it up as we went. And it was just so fun. And it was lovely being in that room with these 10 different parenting styles, all very different, but all very of celebrating the different styles that work for different people.
Yeah, I love that word, celebrate. I'm wondering, Ellie, how do you parent? Now that you've seen the show and you've seen all these different parenting styles, what would you say your parenting style is?
Well, if we did a season 2, I'd be the perfect parent. I had all these conversations with Justin in the ad break. I'd be going, okay, so I'm asking for a friend. Yeah. If you do this, no, Ali, you can't do that. Okay, well, and I've got this other friend. Basically Justin and the other parents in the room help me adjust what we do. And what I actually found, in all seriousness, going through this experiment is that my parenting style and my husband's parenting style is a little bit inconsistent. So we've never really sat down and said, okay, this is how we want to do it. We're on the same page in regards to this. My husband's probably a little bit more strict than I am, but he is consistent. I'm inconsistent. I think part of that is some days I'm tired and what have you, and I just can't be bothered having that fight. So the rules, Monday might be different Tuesday. And so I've really tried to get my head around that more. And so the kids know where those boundaries are, and those boundaries don't change. And I think that's made a really big difference in our household.
So let's just clarify as well. How old are your kids? You've got a boy and a girl.
I have a little boy, Mac, and he is 4, and a little girl, Scout, who is 2. And to be clear, the way I parent both of them is very different, because what works for him does not work for her.
Yeah, which one's your favourite?
Today? Neither of them today. They're both in my passport.
We've noticed.
I absolutely have favourites, though. You and I tried to get you to tell me which one was your favourite, and you never fell for that. But I would happily tell you each day, but it always changed. I figured as long as you don't consistently have, see, this goes back to being inconsistent, right? as long as you don't consistently have the same favourite child, it's okay.
So we're recording this via Zoom, and Ali is literally hiding in the corner of a room so the kids can't find her.
I'm in my 4-year-old's room, in Mac's room, sitting on his bed with a construction quilt and his Elmo, and I've got his little shark toy, and yeah, this is the only place I could find where it's quiet in my house right now.
Hey, I've got another quick question for you before Kylie jumps in. I know it's Kylie's interview, but I
told you, Ellie, there's just no.
No, I know. I've learned.
Well, I just thought of a question.
A few things about your husband.
I just thought of something that we didn't talk about when we were recording the show, and I don't know if you're going to give me a straight answer here. I'm guessing because you're so careful, you probably won't. But did you have a favourite parenting style? I'm not going to ask which couple you liked the most, although I'm tempted, but did you have a style when you were sitting in the room and watching the parents talk? And I know there was good and bad to take from each of them, but was there one that really just resonated with you that you were like, oh, I just want to be a bit more like them?
I wouldn't say there was one particular style. I took a little bit out of a few sort of certain styles, but I think they sort of lean in one particular direction. And so, I mean, I look at what we do at home, and it's a little bit between, we're very much routine. We're a little bit helicopter. I'm sometimes free range. You see why my kids are confused? But as I keep saying to my husband, look, they need something to talk to their therapist about when they grow up. And I feel I provide that material. But I wouldn't actually say there was one style that worked for me. I think, there were some things about, say, for instance, free range parenting. There's a whole lot I took away from that, but there was a whole lot that didn't work for me that I couldn't do. So I haven't walked away going, okay, right, I'm going to be a free range parent, or I'm going to be a French parent now. I think I'm still parent pretty much the same way. We've just adjusted around the edges.
I think that is actually the magic of the show. It wasn't actually about highlighting that there was this one golden standard. What it has done, it has opened up our eyes to the fact that there are so many wonderful ways to parent our children, and we can take so much from each style and bring that into our own personal makeup of what parenting looks like for our family.
Well, how's it changed your family, Kylie, and how you parent?
Yeah, what did you notice when I came back from filming the show? What did you see in me? Was I different at all?
I'm not supposed to be in the hot seat. This is not my interview.
No, but seriously, was I different at all? Did you notice a difference when we got back together after being away for a couple of weeks filming the show?
Yeah, I think that you were more intentional. It can be. It can get really. It can get really crazy in our house with the different schedules.
Well, we've got 6 daughters. I mean, hello.
And sometimes it can be very easy to just get swallowed up in the day-to-day running of things and kind of forget that there's a whole lot of little people following behind. And I think what I noticed when you came home was just this absolute intention to be in the space and be in the moment with our kids.
That's a great answer. I feel like I've passed.
But I think that's a really important thing you raise, and that was one of the things that came out for me when we talked about screen time and that challenge is that my husband, when he'd walk in the door after he'd finished work in the afternoon, the kids are like, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and he's just jumped off the motorbike and he's coming in and he's back sort of checking emails and all. Or when I'd come home from work and he's still doing like work phone calls and all, that's all stopped. So when we walk into the house and especially when you get these 2 gorgeous little kids running up, what's more important, that work email that can wait another half hour or just giving them that attention that they want in that moment? And we've found that their behaviour is better. Dinner time, that whole witching hour is far less witchy because they have our full and complete attention. So that roller coaster of emotions at that time of the day, it hasn't gone away. I'm not saying there are no tantrums in our house anymore, but it just feels calmer. It feels happier. Everyone's connected.
I say this all the time. If you can get the connection right, if kids feel like you're emotionally available to them, you probably resolve 80 to 90% of your behavioural challenges without ever having to do any quote unquote discipline because kids are they're designed to connect. Hey, right after the break, we're going to find out about how an objective, unemotional journalist came just a little bit undone during the filming of Parental Guidance. That's next on the Happy Families podcast.
It's the Happy Families podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we have the beautiful Alison Langdon with us, and we are discussing all things parental guidance.
Alison Langdon, mother of two youngsters, 4 and 2, and
the host.
Host of, I was going to say host of the Today Show, but really, that's nothing. Host of Parental Guidance. That's what we're really... You know you've hit the big time, Ali, when you're hosting the parenting reality TV show on Channel 9.
Oh, yeah, until you realise you've been brought on as the example of what a bad parent looks like. There are a few moments like that where it's like going, oh, far out. Okay, I'm not gonna share my story here.
It's interesting when the very first question you asked Justin at the beginning of the show, first night, you said, "Are you a perfect parent?" And lots of people ask those questions all the time of Justin and I since he has started this journey with Happy Families. And the reality is we're not. And the reason that we get to be better and better is because we immerse ourselves in it every day. This podcast helps us to be reminded of the things that are so important to us and help us to kind of be more intentional with the way we parent. And I think that that's what the show has done as well. It's just allowed people to kind of open up dialogue and have these beautiful conversations about how to be intentional in their parenting.
I thought that's just beautiful. I think that's exactly what we hoped the show would achieve, that everyone would just make people think, and perhaps think outside the square a little bit about how they approach things, and is there a better way, or is there a way of just adjusting around the edges that can mean that the whole family benefits? So I think that how you've just summed it up there, Kylie, is perfect. It's exactly what we were hoping to achieve.
Ali, journalists are typically objective and unemotional about things, but it seemed like you got a little bit caught up in the moment and you were quite affected a few times. Maybe put your mum hat on for a minute instead of the journo hat. What hit you so hard as you went through the show?
Oh, I mean, Justin will tell you, I was in tears quite a bit. Well, I think because you have these moments from these parents when, and let's go right back to the very first episode as an example, when we were talking about snacking. And then with that first group, there was that talk, and there was also the talk with the kids where they were climbing the rock wall. And there's these moments where really heartfelt from the parents, where we're trying to do our best. And this idea of maybe what we're doing isn't good enough, or maybe we need to look at this. And you felt the parents' emotion, and you felt the love for their kids in that time. And even if it was a parenting style that I didn't necessarily agree with some of the things they did, and that I'm talking here is our snacking family, and also a disciplined family in regards to soap on a toothbrush. Just hearing those and hearing how they speak about the kids and how much they love their kids and why they do it and the thought process behind it, I found was really, really emotional. And I just love the reason that everyone came on that show. Everyone just wants to be better and just wants to create beautiful, kind human beings who grow up to be kind, caring adults. And so everyone's got the same objective. We're just doing it all differently. So when someone was feeling, when certain groups were feeling the heat, or sort of really felt that their style was being picked apart in some ways, I felt for them in that moment, because it's coming from a place of love.
When you're on social media, or even when you're watching a TV show normally, you just see this two-dimensional character. But I feel like in Parental Guidance, we got to know the parents, we got to understand them, we got to see their humanity and their tenderness and their vulnerability and their willingness to be open. And for me, that's what moved me most. And I get the sense that was the same for you, Ali. And watching Timothy climb up that wall and fall down and keep on pushing.
I was bawling like a baby with that one. That was
so was I. And also like the stranger danger one, because I think we've all thought about that, how we have the conversation with our kids. And Mac, my 4-year-old, was up with me when the show started on that first week. And when it played in like the teaser at the start of the show, Mackie turned to me and he said, "Oh, Mummy, we don't talk to strangers in the park, do we, just in case they're a bad person?" I went, "Yeah, that's right, mate." He goes, "Except if they've got a puppy, and then it's okay." And it was just that moment of like, oh, like this is why this conversation is so hard. This is why we all felt it when the kids who went off did. because how do you have that conversation? And I know for us, we've talked about it. I don't want my kids scared of adults and scared thinking that, every
person with a puppy
is going to try and take them and abduct them. I don't want them thinking that. I want them to think that if they were in trouble and they were somewhere where we weren't, don't send them to the park yet on their own. They're at home. Don't see them with them. But I'd hate them to think that they couldn't go up to an adult and ask someone for help if they needed it. So how do you get that language right around a conversation with something that's so important? And it ripped my heart out when I saw those kids go off and you put yourself in that situation.
And to watch the parents go through it as well. It was and I expected, Ali, that we were going to get some blowback. I thought that there'd be some criticism of that. I didn't read, see or hear anybody say anything negative about it. And I think it's because everybody recognised just how important it was, and they also saw the responses of the parents. Like, this is a point well made. Full stop, end of story. And now the conversation has opened up.
This has been such an awesome conversation, Ellie. I have just loved getting your take on the show. One last question to close things up. What changed for you because of the show?
Goodness me, I think we're just far more conscious about the type of parents we want to be. And so we've changed. We've actually changed how we parent. I find myself now going to the park. I'm not saying, be careful, watch out, that's dangerous, because that's putting all those ideas in the kid's head. So now when Matt climbs something really high, I just don't watch. That's easier.
Great stuff, mate. Keep it up. While you're looking the other way.
Free range going on there.
So there's a little bit of free range there. And I think we've got a real plan in place with screen time. We've got to, if we're talking the talk, we've got to walk it. And so we've been really good and really consistent at just getting rid of the screens at certain times of the day. And, that's morning when my husband's with the kids. I'm obviously not there in the mornings, but that afternoon post daycare or when hubby gets home, it's properly family focused time. And we're seeing a huge change in the kids and response. We're just not having those horrible meltdowns and witching hours that we have previously. So I think, it's made us much better parents and far more aware.
Love that. And I think that conversation is happening all around the country with so many families. Alison Langdon, host of The Today Show and Parental Guidance. Thanks so much for joining us on the Happy Families podcast. Can't
believe you pick your nose, but other than that...
I'll see you for season 2, and I'm not going to sanitize.
Don't know how you do it, Kylie. How you put up with it.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you'd like more info about making your family happier, you can find out everything you need at happyfamilies.com.au.
I'd just like to say, Kylie, that you should do more of the talking.
What are you saying? What is this? Gosh.